Yeah, welcome to learnanalytics.org, podcast number 3. Our mission is to inspire and have more conversations to bring in awesome guests to talk about data, technology, and product. And today we have a special guest, Yoon, with us today. He is currently a data science, pursuing a master's in data science at one of the more prestigious universities in US right now. So yeah, welcome, Yoon.
Thanks for having me.
How are you today? How's your
Good.
Saturday going?
It's good. Yeah. The weather. I'm in Boston currently. And the weather was like pretty. We had hot days, but this weekend seems to be on the nicer side. So I'm
Mm,
definitely enjoying it.
it's
Yeah.
it's good to talk about data on Saturday today.
Yeah. Definitely.
Cool. Yeah, maybe we could just start out with learning a little bit about your background. I know actually your undergrad, you actually studied in psychology, right?
Yeah, I can. Yeah, talk a little bit about my background. So as you said, I started studying psychology in my undergrad. But I was towards the end of my college years, I was more interested in the neuroscience aspects of more physiological aspects of the psychology.
Mm,
And I interned at a neuroscience lab, and one of the
mm,
jobs I was assigned to at that lab was actually working with the data because neuroscience experiments actually generate a lot of data, good amount of data. So it
wow.
was kind of different from what I was exposed to previously, which was a social psychology, where you actually conduct the amount of data that you are dealing with is actually is quite limited, and
Mm,
it's a controlled experiment, so you don't have to usually you don't have to use a lot of complicated techniques or methods,
mm-hmm,
statistical methods.
mm-hmm,
It's relatively more straightforward.
mm,
So that is to say that that was my first experience, my first exposure to a lot of massive data.
mm,
And I was fortunate to learn from the PhD students in the lab about some
mm.
of the basic kind of modeling techniques. More about linear regression and stuff like
Mm.
that.
Got it.
Um,
So that was your first sort of exposure to using data, and you sort of got interest in it from some of the PhD students with like the modeling type of thing.
yeah,
Sounds
yeah,
like, yeah.
yeah. So, and then, but there was like I said, that was towards the end of my college years.
Mm,
So I wanted to pursue my interest in exploration in data space, but kind of
mm,
leveraging my background in psychology, specifically
mm-hmm,
like a social, topics.
mm-hmm.
So
So what? So when you graduated, you
yeah,
were or nearing graduation, you're already like you love data, but you also want to use your background in science, right? So somewhere
yeah.
data or
But to
science.
be honest, like I was not perfectly, sure about whether I really, really love, the data space. I was interested in,
Yeah.
but then also I knew that because I'm talking about the year, around 2015, and
Yeah.
there was the time when, like a data science and all the things, were becoming, popular.
Mhm. Mhm.
So I knew that data is like a space where there will be a lot of opportunities,
Yeah, a lot of
and
growth.
I
Yeah.
wanted to, that was also part of my motivation why I wanted
Mhm.
to.
Mhm.
So I ended up getting a job at University of Chicago,
Mhm.
working as a research analyst.
Yep.
And what
Mhm.
we did in that research institute was doing the data analysis for the city of Chicago,
Mhm.
analyzing the student data that
Mhm.
the city of Chicago shared with us,
Mhm.
and doing the statistical evaluation of some of the programs. For
Mhm.
instance, like they wanted to investigate whether the educational intervention programs that they were implementing in a specific poor, high poverty neighborhood was effective or not. So
Mhm.
we were conducting some research analysis on behalf of that. So evaluating whether that's effective or not, and also if it's not effective, like how the potential ways we can improve the effectiveness of the program.
Got it.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes sense. What was your experience there like doing that type of work, right? It sounded like it was still doing data, but did that reassure you that this is what you wanted to get into, or what was your experience overall from that?
My overall experience was that definitely, like one thing I could confirm is that data is being valued, and
Mm-hmm.
it has like a great potential for improving a lot of things we can do.
Mm-hmm.
But then a big lesson I got out of that experience was that because we were working with the human data,
Yeah.
and also the impact of our analysis has to go through this, like a policy translation of the insights into certain policies. But then, like that phase, that process involves a lot of factors other than just, like a data science or like a technical aspects of data science. You have to consider some of the political aspects and some of the ethical considerations and, like a potential impacts it might have. So that is to say, and the process also involves a lot of human aspects, like persuading people and understanding the larger context of what you're doing. So it taught me a lot about the importance of these contextual factors in order to make the data analytic activities into something useful, like actions or impacts.
I think that's interesting, and I would love to dive more about that, right? Like, because like data's there, right? Like it takes you want to drive that data to an action, right? Like there's so many steps involved, right? Do you have the right stakeholders in the room, right? Are you getting the analysis to them? Is it making sense to them, right? Are you presenting it to them, right? And who's the ultimate people who's going to make the action, right? Like, are they persuaded in it, right? From taking a data point all the way through is a very complicated process. And I'm sure
definitely.
It's different in every industry, or even any different in the problem solving components, right? That's a unique thing, right? So
Yep,
cool.
definitely. And I'm very appreciative that I got that experience earlier than later.
Yeah.
So my role was more kind of a comprehensive, supporting the research, but at the same time interfacing with these decision makers who are not necessarily the technical people. And as you said, like you have to be able to think on their from their perspectives, like to make whatever you have to offer into something useful for them.
Got it. So what would be who would be some of the decision makers that you're trying to influence with data here?
So basically for instance, like as I referred to, a lot of the people we had to interact with were principals of certain school districts, or at the city level, the people who decide whether they will put some money into some intervention programs. So the people we had to interact with.
Got it. Okay. So you're basically looking at school districts, and are you the one who's evaluating the programs, or you're using data to evaluate the programs, right?
Yeah, basically our role is to support the evaluation aspects.
Got it.
But what I wanted to emphasize here was that because what we were doing was a part of the larger picture, right? Because there's people obviously who are drafting the policy, and also the people who are implementing the policy.
Got it.
Right, and the school, like teachers, principals, those are like the first stakeholders in this picture, right? Because they are directly affected by these policies, and also the students.
Yeah.
So we a lot of times we had to talk to them to understand what their pain points are, what their perspectives are, in order to go beyond just the technical statistical aspects. Because like the data points from very technical standpoint, like some of the, for instance, statistical significance, you can just approach them from a technical standpoint.
Yeah.
But if you have more knowledge about the context and
Yeah.
context around the data that you're dealing with,
Yeah.
you can think about let me use the term clinical significance, for instance.
Mhm.
So you can be more nuanced in interpreting some of the results you are seeing, and that actually affects your ability to translate whatever you found more digestible, something that makes better sense to these people that you are talking to. And that, in my experience, has usually better effects
Got it.
in making the analysis more useful.
Got it. Yeah, no, I think that's a super interesting experience or example, right? Because you're talking about how do you really use data to influence a decision, right? Or an action, right? But in order to do that, you have to understand the context, right? You have to understand the context. You have to understand the different stakeholders, right? Why would they have a certain type of opinion on this, right? Or how does it affect, right? Like, I think you hit on the point where that's the most interesting stuff, and it's also sometimes it's hard, right, to bring it to. There's so many things that gets involved, but data is certainly a key point to making that decision, right? It should always be rooted in data. So cool.
Definitely.
Yeah. Maybe then we could translate to from that experience, what made you sort of like decide to pursue for a master's in data science?
So I spent about 3 years working in the research institute at University of Chicago. But then I wanted to learn more about the advanced techniques. By that, what I mean is what we were doing in the research institute was a lot of times inferential work. So it was like applied to statistics, right? But I knew that in the field of data, modeling was more of a kind of trend. I mean, I'm not saying that data science is not about like inferential stuff, but I was aware that a lot of progress was being made in the space of a prediction. So, but then in the policy space that I was in specifically, the prediction, predictive modeling was facing the people in the policy space were not as adaptive as people in other space, because like prediction, you often hear that like machine learning algorithms are kind of black boxes, right?
Yeah.
So by that, what people mean is that you cannot fully explain what's going on and like how this prediction was made by the model, like on what basis, right?
Yeah.
It's oftentimes not clear. That's the price you have to pay for the like better prediction accuracy rate. So that is to say, I wanted to expose myself to this like a less explored side of data science, like more of a machine learning and the techniques. I wanted to like try that in the policy space, but like for the reasons I just mentioned, this explainability, interpretability, I couldn't do it fully. So I wanted to kind of like go into school to learn more about that, that was my initial motivation.
Got it.
So after 3 years in the research institute, applied to a bunch of places. I think I applied for data science programs, statistics programs, and one computer science. Like all kind of hinging, like this hinging on the data science theme. And I'm now here. Yeah.
Great. How many? You're like halfway through that program, right? Or more than
just finished my first year. Doing my internship and 1 more year to go.
Got it. So it's a 2-year program.
It's actually 3 semester. So the minimum number of minimum amount of time it takes is 3 semesters, but I decided to do it 4 semesters.
Got it. And you're doing this full time, right? So 3 semesters full time. Okay, cool. Maybe we could even talk about that a little bit, like how in terms of like the program structure, right? I think some viewers are interested in like understanding how is this different, right? How is doing a actual full holistic type of program different from like online learning, right? Like what do you think is like the benefits of actually doing something like this, right? Yeah.
You mean the benefits of doing in-person full-time academic program as opposed to
Yes.
online program?
Yes, compared to an online program.
So I thought a lot about it, like because I was also considering the other option, which is online learning,
Yeah.
which is awesome these days. So you have a lot of offerings.
Hmm.
And my opinion so far is that when it comes to the technical learning, I think you can learn um, most of what these programs are offering by yourself. Like
Hmm.
leveraging the online materials.
Hmm.
However, I think one of the benefits of doing the full-time program is that you can actually fully commit to learning these materials as opposed
Mm.
to doing it as a part-time.
Mm.
And that, and also you have like more resources around you
Mm.
because you're in a dedicated program that is dedicated to educating you about this
Hmm.
technical stuff, right?
Hmm.
So there's a staff, and you can actually meet them in person and ask the questions. I know that has been changed due to the coronavirus situation, but that was a pretty good. And also, when you're in school, I think the unexpected benefits I actually observed is that this indirect kind of exposure to diverse viewpoints, or like
Mm.
so. For instance, let me give you an example.
Yeah.
I met a lot of people, coming from a very technical, mathematical kind of, like background. Like
Mm.
many of the colleagues, are from those backgrounds, right?
Hmm.
Engineering.
Hmm.
But then, because of the nature of the program, our program is pretty flexible, and it kind of allows you to explore different, whatever you're interested in outside of the very minimal core.
Yeah.
So folks, like dare to, like explore the unexplored fields, from medicine to, business, and
Hmm.
like by talking to the people that in these programs, in these other programs, right? Like
Hmm.
medical school, or business school,
Hmm.
they actually like figured a lot more about what they want to do, and like what they're interested in. Some of
Mm.
the folks actually found like a new interest, that found that they are actually interested in, like for instance, the medical application. So they are
Hmm.
doing actually their coursework and research relating to the medical application field, like a
Mm.
data science, but
Mm.
within the medical science context.
Hmm.
And like these kind of indirect exposure leading to new associations, and like just exploration, I think would not necessarily best supplied by the online learning. Of
Mm.
course, you can do them if you're interested in. You can, there's a lot of resources on the web.
Hmm.
However, I think just being physically close,
Yeah.
and like because all these folks also come to the data science classroom and talk to you
Yeah.
folks, right? Like
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
you guys have to do the
Yeah.
same project, and you
Yeah.
introduce yourself
Yeah.
to another person, and this person is from business school or whatever.
Yeah.
So those things are actually something I didn't expect, but I think is a very good um, offering that these in-person programs have.
Yeah. No, I think totally I could connect with that point, right? It's back to really when you have in-person interactions and in-person conversations, you're really learning together, right? You're learning in sort of a community group setting, right? And it's always like that, right? If you do part-time, you do online courses, a lot of it could be very individual work, right? And even if you have breakout groups and stuff like that, but like you never really had a interaction with this person outside of talking about that coursework, right? Or
Mm-hmm.
that type of project, right?
Yeah.
And I think you hit on that. And I think maybe one thing that's pretty cool, or it sounds like from what you were saying, is like you're able to if you have an interest in maybe healthcare applications, right, you're able to tailor some of their coursework even or the projects to that, right, to that
Mm-hmm.
specific niche or research, right? So
Yeah.
I think that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. Yeah.
cool.
And yeah, like yeah, you got the point. And yeah, I think that was possible in part because, like I said, my program specifically, one of the biggest reasons I chose my current program was that it was flexible enough to accommodate those diverse, like interests. Whereas some programs are pretty, like restricted in what you can do. They
Yeah,
already have, pre-packaged curriculum
yeah,
that you
yeah,
have to follow.
yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, so maybe like to even some viewers who are considering different programs, right? Definitely do some research about those programs, right? Like I would say even my program that I did, it was probably like it had some coursework where you could be flexible, but like for the
Mm-hmm.
most part, it was pretty standard. Like this is
Mm-hmm.
the set of courses, these are all
Mm-hmm.
the things, right? It could be database, it could be data visualization, but it was very high level in general, right? There
Mm-hmm.
wasn't ability to tailor it too
Mm-hmm.
much, right? I think one of the programs that invest more, right, and have a good resources, right, and are some of the leading, for sure, data science programs are the ones that able to have a really diversified, holistic look at it.